Hello, hello to the early birds. Welcome, Ariel, Shayna, and I hope I won't butcher it. Is it Deidre? Deidre? I don't know. I like to always test out the names and see if I get them right or wrong. In hopes that nobody will get me in trouble. Petra, welcome. Susanna, Vivek, how are y'all doing today? Welcome, Amanda. We're big on making these webinars fun and engaging and a little, interactive, if we may. So we're heavy on using the chat. Let's make sure that everybody can use the chat, because last time we had a little snafu. Can everybody say hello in the chat? Is it working? Not working. Natalia, I don't know what oh, it's working now. Live, you learn. We'll get that set out for next time. Thanks, Vivek, for letting me know in the Q&A. That was super helpful. Welcome, everyone. Hello from Germany. Very cool. What other places are y'all messaging from along the in the world? We can do state, city. I don't know. We can get creative with it. I also have a very on-topic little icebreaker that will play. And we're gonna do stress bingo because I felt like it would be, we've never done this one, but obviously we're here for the how to manage stress and promote mindfulness in the remote workplace workshop. So we're gonna do a little stress bingo. So I just thought I will say some things that might be stressful, and y'all can be like, yes, I'm suffering from this right now, or maybe no, I'm not suffering from this right now. So pretty relaxed. So who's stressed about summer plans? Is anybody stressed about summer plans? Are people just excited about summer plans? I want to know more, Vivek. So you're stressed about summer plans. Mary's stressed about summer plans. I feel you, Deidre. No real plans to stress about. Well, I am 8 months pregnant and I just broke my left arm. So I'm a little stressed about that. So there's no fun summer plans for me other than hoping that maybe I'll be able to hold my own child. I guess that's something to be stressed about. Because they cost money. Yeah, vacations are so expensive. You got flights, hotels, food, activities. But those memories, they're priceless. And I always try to I feel like a little thing that I do is I think to myself, the vacation money that I spent last year, am I still stressed about it? And if the answer is no, then I kind of be like, okay, well then, we'll figure it out. You'll spend the money, it'll be scary in that moment. And then, a year later, you'll forget about it again. And so, all right. What about deadlines? Are we stressed about deadlines? Any upcoming deadlines that we're stressed about? And for those of you who are new, we're playing stress bingo just for an extra minute or two as we get people to come in. The idea is just jump into the chat and let us know if you're stressed of anything. Zach, I like this. They are deadlines. So yes. Okay. Yes, we have an all company offsite in 4 weeks, says Stephanie. Ooh, that's stressful. Stephanie, are you planning that on your own? Do you have help? Are you just participating and it's stressful because you got to get, all the ducks in a row beforehand? Curious. Welcome. We have a lot of new people here. We're just having a fun little stress bingo chat. Another stress bingo. What about traffic? who's currently stressed about traffic? Or are we all just working from home and therefore no traffic in our lives? Ooh, Stephanie, good luck. She says she's one of the main points of contact for planning and organizing, but she has some support. Lee says, I live in Boston, so yes, traffic. Well, Lee, are you excited that the Celtics, I think, are making it to the finals? I don't know. I'm very lightly, casually exploring the whole Celtics finals thing. So maybe you're not stressed about that, or maybe you're stressed about it, actually. Think about it. No traffic, thankfully, working from home. That's I love it. I love it. Well, y'all, it's been so great to kind of just kick things off with a little bit of stress bingo with you all. We had a few other items on this bingo card: lost keys, anybody moving homes, time management, lack of sleep, chores, parenting, negative self-talk. But we're not going to get to all of them, although you're welcome to share with us any of the things that you're stressed about in the chat. We're going to try to make this as fun as possible for y'all over the course of the next 30 to 45 minutes. So just a little bit about me. I am Lee Rubin. I'm going to be your host for today. I'm also the founder and CEO at Confetti. I'm one of the world's experts in employee culture and event planning, especially virtual team building. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Confetti has over 8,000 customers. And we've worked with companies like Google and Facebook in improving their company culture. Confetti is the easiest way to discover, plan, and book unforgettable virtual and hybrid employee experiences, everything from hosted games to shippable classes. It's really the only platform that takes care of the entire event planning process end to end with a happiness policy and truly has something for everyone. I mentioned earlier in the chat, for those of you who were here, I am 8 months pregnant. So for those of you who know or don't know what it's like to do that, I'm at the stage where it's hard to just breathe. It's like, so hang on with me as I catch my breath in between sentences. But just a quick little agenda for today. We're going to kick things off with a little icebreaker / poll that is going to come right up after this. We're going to get the ice broken. We're going to get you guys a little bit engaged, so just be ready with your mouse clickers. And then we're going to jump straight into the problem of stress in the office and why it matters. But we don't like to dwell on problems here. We want to focus on solutions and solving them. So that's where the meat of the conversation is going to be. We're also going to share with you a few little freebies at the end. And if there's any time left, we'll open it up for some Q&A. All right, awesome. Stephanie, do you have a sample of your stress bingo? I can share with you afterwards what I put together, but it was very chill. It was just for funsies, a little icebreaker, nothing too crazy. All right, so Natalia is going to be my assistant for today. She's going to pull up the poll. And the poll that we're going to have today is on a scale of 1 to 5. How stressed do you typically feel at work? So 1 is like, I'm chilling. I'm never stressed. I'm jealous, I have to say, of whoever ends up clicking that, if anybody ever does. 2, I'm occasionally stressed, but try to keep calm as my default. Also inspiring. Love it. 3, I'm 50-50, depends on a handful of factors. I'm almost always stressed, and what is calm? I only know stress. We have about 87 participation rate so far, so we're going to give it a few more seconds for those last few folks to chip in with their answers. But I'm finding the poll both like surprising and not surprising as I'm seeing the results. So I'm going to end the poll here in 5, 4, oh, there we go. And then we're going to share the results. So I'm number 5. I am what is calm. I only know stress. But no, this has improved a lot over the years, and it's with the strategies that I'm going to share with you that has helped. And I love how 50% of you guys are about 50-50. That was nice. 0% said I'm chilling. Oh gosh, guys, I want a few more of you to hopefully get there, but it's life. I feel like life's just stressful, so it's normal that we're We're all having a little bit of stress at work. Awesome. And let's talk a little bit about what is the main sources of stress in your work environment. So we're going to pull up another poll right now. And the options are high workload or unrealistic deadlines, lack of clear communication or direction from management, conflicts with colleagues or superiors, job insecurities or fear of layoffs, poor work-life balance, and micromanagement or a lack of autonomy. I'm going to give you a few seconds to go ahead and do that while I take a sip. Ooh, there's a very clear winner here. I'm curious if any of you who have already participated, what do you think is the winner? Does anybody want to guess? Erica, a combo of everything. If we're all in HR, it's workload. Love that. Communication, work-life balance. Yeah, just picking what you guys clicked on. All right, we're gonna give it a few more seconds and then we'll share. So for anyone who hasn't clicked yet, you have about 5-10 seconds. So click away. Oh, there's a very clear winner here. It's actually, I'm kind of happy with the one that's there because it's super solvable. And the one that I was most nervous about is actually low on the list here. All right, so I'm going to end the poll. I'm going to share with you guys the results. The clear winner with 44% was lack of clear communication or direction from management. And then we had a very small amount, which is conflicts with colleagues or supervisors, which is so great. That means a lot of y'all are not like in this majorly toxic, workplace. High workload definitely came in second place with unrealistic deadlines. That's a tough one. I don't think we have a topic on that today too much, but if we have time, it would be great, Natalia, if you can remind me and my pregnant brain, maybe we can give a few tips on that. But let's dive into the meat and potatoes. But if you're vegan, it could be tofu and potatoes, whatever you want. But 44% of global employees regularly experience workplace stress, and 92% of workers feel it's important to work for an organization that values their well-being. There's still a little bit of that disconnect, right? Workplace stress can be particularly felt with remote work, though, which is probably what the majority of y'all are at least from previous surveys that we've had with people that attend our webinars. Many of them are remote/hybrid. And the four big reasons for why workplace stress can be particularly felt with remote work is that there's really like a lack of boundaries. There's no separation between office and home. Accessibility of technology really makes it hard to switch off. I also know like a lot of people who work remotely, they feel this need to constantly be on because they're like, oh my gosh, my boss messaged me and I didn't answer within a minute. So they probably think I'm taking a nap. Like all of those anxieties kind of come through with people who work remotely. Social isolation. So, just not having that kind of camaraderie, that over the kitchen counter opportunities, the water coolers moments. And work can sometimes feel a little bit more transactional without those small moments of interaction. So all of those can kind of cause stress. So as I said, we're not going to dwell on the problem too much. We're going to go straight into solutions, and we have a lot that we want to share with you. So one of the first things that we see as an important element for establishing less stress in a remote workplace is to establish a routine. And this can look different from team to team or department to department, but making this can make a world of a difference. And at Confetti, here are some of the things that we personally care about that help us establish this. So one of them is strict calendar maintenance. So it's to us, it's important to share what you're working on at pretty much every given hour that you're working. And if you're on a break, that's also cool, but write that you're on a break on your calendar, so we know that we can't reach you or we know why you're unavailable. However, if that spot is empty on your calendar, we look at it as an indicator that you're either not busy, not working, or you're available to jump on a spontaneous call, because people don't always update it as religiously, but the goal is to always try. The second thing is setting your hours of operations and making sure that the team is aware of that. So for Confetti, our hours of operation is 9 to 5 p.m. Eastern time. That means like these main hours are what we expect our team to work off of. We don't expect you to work earlier than that or necessarily work later than that. But if a meeting gets set during this time frame, it's like game on that we can go ahead and do that. So you can live, travel, work wherever you want, but you can accommodate at least a handful of those available hours during that block of time. And coordinating with team members and making sure both sides are comfortable with those hours. So if one person needs to make a sacrifice, it should be the person who's asking for the hours outside of the 9 to 5 p.m. Eastern time framework. So, if you're traveling and you're like, hey, I want to get out of the United States for a little bit and go to Italy and work remotely, then you're like, cool, you go ahead and do that. But if I'm, at home working and you're in Italy and I need a call at 4 p.m., you'll be the one who makes the sacrifice as the person who went to Italy for that remote work period, not the person who lives in the United States. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't try to be like, hey, I want to try to work these different hours. Can we try to make most of our meetings in an earlier time frame during the 2-3 weeks that I'm away? But if it's not possible, that's who needs to make the sacrifice. Responsiveness. So we share that responsiveness is really the core communication value that's important to us at Confetti, especially during those 9 to 5 p.m. Eastern hours. So if your calendar isn't being fully maintained, we should be able to get a quick response from you for those time-sensitive needs. However, even just a quick reply back, I often tell the team, it's not about just like getting the answer, even just saying, hey, I'm out of office to pick up my kids, I'm going to respond by this hour. It just helps both sides have their needs met while still humanizing the workplace. And I actually really like when people are kind of telling me what it is that they're doing outside of work, if it's in those timeframes, because I'm like, oh yeah, you go mama, like you do your thing. And then the fourth one is just to establish tech boundaries. So I don't know how big all the companies are of the people that are here, but when we first started Confetti, we were all on WhatsApp. And it was tough because our personal and professional lives were really hard to separate. And then we brought in Slack and made a rule that we won't message people on WhatsApp anymore unless it's like an after hours like emergency, or if it's like truly just for fun, right? I mean, you saw a meme and you're like, hey, I saw this, I thought of you, and I didn't want to send it in the work chat. But creating that work-life boundary separation really does help us stay disconnected when it comes to that work-life harmony. And we're going to encourage mindful breaks. So this can look different from team to team and from season to season. But at Confetti, we encourage a few things to help here. So one of them is we like to take the first 2 to 5 minutes of a meeting to just connect personally and break the ice. And during this time, we want to actively listen, use our emotional intelligence to just suss out the vibe. So if you see something, you can ask your team member like, hey, you seem down today. Is everything okay? And like these little moments really go a long way in building just a relationship in a digital environment. But it also helps you pick up on clues of different people, like what it is that their interests are and like what they're excited for. If you're starting to like, if it's a Monday and you just finished the weekend, or if it's Friday and you're heading into the weekend, you can be like, oh, wow, this person likes pickleball. And now if you're responsible for their birthday present, maybe you're going to get them something about pickleball because you know that little personal thing about them. What I do think is important about taking the first 2 to 5 minutes of a meeting, it has to be authentic. So you can't just be like, hey, what's going on? Okay, cool, cool, cool. Let's move on. If you're not, if you're like really crunched for time that day, just acknowledge that, express yourself by saying, hey, I'm really swamped today. Would it be okay if we just hop straight into what we need to talk about? But you do want to try to sprinkle those moments of personal connection at the first few moments of that meeting. Days on versus days off. So for Confetti, Q4, as y'all can imagine, is one of our biggest quarters of the year. It's holiday party season. And although we always encourage people to book throughout the year, if there is one time during the year that people are planning events, it is in Q4. And so we encourage our team to take the days off and the weeks off that they want, obviously before that Q4 busy season. And especially in preparation to help them kind of mentally prepare for that busy time. So summer for us is like a slower period. This is when we really encourage people to take their PTO time. But once it's done, we highly encourage employees to also take vacation days, again, before and after their busy season. So really figuring out, is there a busy season for your company or for each team and department? And during that time, try to create certain parameters of saying, hey, try to avoid time off during these weeks or months out of the year. But here are the times where we actually want to encourage you to take that time off. HR monitors PTO at Confetti, and they do bring up unused time to individuals if needed. And when, tough life moments or work moments arise, they might even give that friendly, nudge to encourage people to take time off, which yields us to a perfect segue for our next poll here. And I'm curious, have any of you been insecure and wondering whether the time you want to go on vacation is the right time? Or have you ever felt like guilty taking a vacation? So we're going to have that poll question pop up on the screen. And let's see what the stats say. In the meantime, I'm going to catch up on the chat here. Amanda says, we kick off our weeklies with celebrations and shout outs. The team really gets involved with this, plus Confetti's amazing question of the week. I'm so happy you're utilizing that. For those who don't know, we send a question of the week. It's a fun little icebreaker that is free if you're subscribed to our marketing emails. And there's always like little fun things that you can use to engage your team. Stephanie says, I actually work a lot with our colleagues to encourage folks to manage and take their time off. And Nancy says, I usually lose much of my vacation because something always comes up when I want to take off. Oh, Nancy, I totally feel you. And you're not alone here. I'm going to end the poll and you're going to see that 84% of you have that same issue where, you are questioning whether the time that you want to go on vacation is the right time. And often, just stressed if now, like feeling guilty about whether now is the right time or not. And I first, as you see, I want to acknowledge this is like a really common feeling that many people have. And it's always one of those things where like none of us want our colleagues to feel that way, but a lot of us do actually feel that way. And my dad, I was like always told me like, Lee, there's never a right time to go on vacation. And that sentence is always stuck with me. Is it like he's saying it's never going to feel like there's a right time. But the truth is that taking care of yourself is always the right choice. And like, it's amazing how much energy we can kind of get back from ourselves when we go on vacation and feeling that that kind of re-energization. I don't know if that's even a word. And coming back to our work and giving our full self. But we've all been in those places where like we want to take a break and we didn't, and then we start getting groggy and resentful and kind of irritated with our work, with our colleagues, with our problems, and taking that step back and seeing how everybody kind of supports each other while you're away is also something that I find a really nice thing to appreciate. when I go on vacation. So another thing I want to say is that just consider that the right time is just whenever you actually need a break, because your well-being is the priority. It's not an afterthought. And you want that same thing to be with your team members. Otherwise, we're going to get burnt out. Then they're going to leave. They're going to think, oh, maybe another company would be better. And one thing that I do to help encourage people to feel less guilt is to plan, if they can, as much in advance through slower times of the year. So really think through being like, okay, I know my company at this point, this quarter is stressful for us, so I'm not going to take a vacation then. I'm going to take a vacation during this time. You coordinate it with your significant other, your kids, or whoever potentially else might be needed. And that way, if you're like, hey, boss, I want to take a vacation 3, 4, 5 months from now, then all of a sudden you're like, okay, we can all work with that. Amy says, any ideas for the problem of inbox overflow during time off? It prevents me and my colleagues from taking longer vacations because it ends up taking us 2 to 3 days just to recover when we come back from work. This is a really great question. So there's a few things that I like to do with this, and I don't know if it's a solution per se, but it's something that it is worthwhile considering. One of them is I like to prepare all of my open projects and people that I'm speaking with to let them know and warn them about 2 weeks ahead of time that I'm actually going to be taking that time off. So that way they can just respect my time off and try not to email me. The other thing is that when I factor in coming back from vacation, and I, let my teams do this too, instead of allowing yourself to kind of have meetings that same day that you're back, you actually organize it to only allow for meetings 2-3 days after you come back from work. That way you actually have those 2-3 days to recover, and you have those 2-3 days to like catch up on those crazy list of emails without feeling. So it's like it's not vacation days, but you're like, please don't schedule time on my calendar yet days. And those are two things that really help me. On top of that is like really encouraging your team. Like I feel like with our team, we really kind of come together where we know everybody works so hard that like when we're gone, we're like, let's do what we can to really not message them. Like, so we have out of office plans at Confetti. So before you take off, you create and I'm happy to share this if anybody's interested. We have like a template and you fill it out, and it's basically like, hey, here's who to go to for every one of these problems that you might encounter. And it's like, this problem go to this person, this problem go to that person. And then we also like to do these like updates. So kind of like, hey, you've been gone for 2 weeks. Here's a little digest of what happened on week 1 and week 2. While you were away. And that way you kind of just like come back to work. You're like, okay, I have those 2-3 days. I'm reviewing my emails and I'm reading these updates. So it's like a little news, like your little news article that's like, oh, this is everything that happened. And you're like, oh my gosh, been gone and all these things changed. Stephanie says, I like your routine coming back from work. Thank you. I also put a notice of upcoming PTO on my signature block ahead of time for folks to see. I love that tip. I agree with it. I'm glad that this has been helpful so far. Awesome. So we're going to move on and we're going to talk about fostering mindful communication. And this is really tough to do in a remote setting where you can often really easily misinterpret people's written word and not have enough body language cues to fill in the blanks. So I really love that y'all didn't have that many issues with coworkers. So it seemed it was a very low percentage, but nonetheless, here are some tips that we try to live by. So one of them is constructive feedback should be left for a verbal setting only. And I say this like, it doesn't have, there's a difference between like, hey, like small little things here, but if you're like, dude, this thing that you did really bothered me, frustrated me, it was bad work or whatever, like you have something, pretty constructive to share, try to avoid writing that, passive aggressive sentence or that long frustrated email. like the second you catch yourself upset, frustrated, or whatever word you want to pick there, it's just a good time to schedule a call with that person and just iron things out. And don't forget to use your nonviolent forms of communication. And Michelle, if you have access to it, if you can drop that link in the chat. But I learned nonviolent forms of communication from my executive coach. And it's been a game changer, both in my professional life and in my personal life, in terms of being able to relay feedback, just making it not as personal sounding, so people get less defensive, and it becomes a bit more about like, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what has made me feel that way. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on it. And people, open up and have very constructive conversations from those. The second thing is to do 360-degree reviews. So feedback should not just be going top to down. It should also be going up to down to up and side to side. It is a lot of work, and like we just got done with our top down reviews, and HR and us are preparing for our bottoms up reviews. And we're always like, oh, like now after we just finished this review, we have another review. But it really is a like an important part of, like, each one of them has its purpose to help and contribute to a positive culture. And I think I'm going to quickly grab, let me see if I can grab this this image to help. Let me know if you guys have access to that. Oh, I think I'm actually writing to only the host panel. There we go. But either way, I was to wrap up the 360-degree reviews. It has its purpose to help. It drives a positive culture. It's great that there's an opportunity for employees to share feedback with their bosses or their managers and make them feel heard. The next thing is to know your channels. So you should know what to go to your team members for with certain information. So with my team, we have a few pillars that make up our communication. Our TBDs, that's what we call them, TBD, to be discussed. And this is our one-on-one time that happens weekly, but that can look different for you or for each team member. I have people that our TBDs are once every other week or multiple times a week or once a month, but it's a mutual and shared to talk about list that for us currently lives on Notion. It doesn't need to be fancy. It could be a Google Sheet. It can be any kind of platform that works well for you. And it's categorized by urgent, important, important, not urgent, casual, and quick wins. Let me know if anybody needs that, but it's the pretty standard hierarchy of kind of like urgency criteria. So urgent, important, important, not urgent, casual, and quick wins. So quick wins are usually convos and topics that can be covered in 2 minutes or less. So we usually like to start there to create a flow to our meeting. It gives us like these quick little things like, hey, did you see that email? Or what was your final thought on this? Or where does this stand? And you get that 1-2 minute download, and then you kind of move on. The TBD is really there for those quick questions and answers that usually are like 5 minutes or less, with maybe bigger topics being 10 to 15 minutes. But anything more than a 15-minute kind of conversation should likely be separated into its own calendar invite. And I think all these tips are really important because it's all part of that time management and that work-life balance. And at least I remember from working in the office personally, people would interrupt my desk all the time, and I would find that very frustrating. And I think that's a really positive benefit with remote work that is like a little bit less, but it does require a lot of structure in your time to feel less stressed about your workload by having these organizational tips. The second thing about know your channels is like Slack. For me, I personally hate getting tasks assigned to me via Slack. So I asked my team to send me all of my tasks via email and only to use Slack for quick questions, updates, little fun day-to-day moments. And I'm sure there are others here that I'm not like listing, but the point is to figure out what works for you and just talk to your team about it and adapt accordingly. I say like most of your team, the immediate people that you work with, if you're a direct manager, you know, usually the max is, they say like the kind of the max that you should have is about 7 people with an ideal of between 4 to 5 people that you should be managing. So I'm like, okay, if we have to just all kind of adapt to somewhere between 5 to 10 people, like that's actually pretty reasonable. It's not like that huge thing to ask for. Obviously, if you have a project management system or anything to kind of, you know, make sure and encourage that people are following those steps so nothing gets missed. And then I mentioned this earlier, but we do weekly updates. Some teams do daily stand-ups. Everybody kind of does their own thing. But these are updates that I get from my team once a week. Again, for us, it's through Notion. This is not a sponsored Notion advertisement. But these are updates and things that I can really read without like needing to discuss them with my team, because I want to give them that opportunity to just focus and execute on work and not have to feel like everything needs to be a discussion or a conversation. So here is where I just come and it's like my weekly digest. I'm just informed by their work on the projects, on different progress, and allows us to kind of only leave the meetings that we have towards actionable items that need to actually be discussed. Let's see, Melissa sent, I think, a question. This seems like a modern top-down initiative for companies whose management philosophy isn't as modern. What do you suggest to move the initiative? Would love a little bit more information. So maybe you can share with me a little bit about how it works within your company. And when you say, what do you suggest to move the initiative, you mean like sharing that the style of how you guys are working isn't efficient? Is that the question? And let me know. We'll be happy to answer that as we go. Moving on to this next slide. So flexibility and adaptability. And I think that this is one of the biggest perks of working remotely is giving your team that flexibility where one should have over its like schedule and their setting. So we are a very outcome-oriented organization, and this allows us to put aside other details like, is Bob working at 9 a.m.? Because maybe Bob prefers to start later and finish later, and maybe his team schedule allows him to do so. Maybe Bob likes working out of a coffee shop because his toddlers come home midday and working from home is distracting to him. And if the outcome is of Bob is just good, then like for us, the rest shouldn't matter as long as it doesn't directly affect or interfere with your outcome. So just taking back that Bob in the coffee shop, if all of a sudden you can't hear Bob or the internet connection at that coffee shop is bad and you can't get a hold of Bob, then, you know, it warrants just being like, hey, I want you to continue working from a coffee shop. It's just that I can't hear you. And I want to be able to reach you during these times. And just like having that pretty, you know, basic that feedback for Bob that you can share on a call, because we said no constructive feedback via messaging. And I think what's especially important with remote work is that those like difficult life moments that throw our entire schedule out of the window, a birth, a death, a broken arm, a mixture of everything. I just feel like with remote work managers, they have this unique sense of an opportunity to really like adapt to their team members' needs at this time and try to make their work less stressful and be there for them, you know, on a more personal basis. So I, you know, use those moments to really show that flexibility and say, hey, I understand that you need your time. Why don't we, you know, cancel today's, like this week's TBDs, we'll move it to next week, or you can pad up your weekly update a little bit more, or, you know, give them that opportunity to change however their schedule might be to make their life a little bit easier. And then our last section here is investing in remote social connection. So fostering a sense of community is really just as important, if not more important, in a virtual setting, because so many of those little moments in the office like simply don't exist in a remote work setting. That doesn't mean it's bad. I often like to think that the people who really like working remotely simply rather go and pet their dog for 5 minutes instead of speak to their coworker by the water cooler. That doesn't mean you shouldn't try to create those water cooler moments, though. So you should consider a strategy that incorporates at least quarterly get-togethers. That's what we kind of prescribe as a minimum. And ideally, you should rotate it amongst company, departmental, and team events in order to keep things fresh and allow for new cultural moments and just moments of connection across the organization. We did a survey recently, and it's just amazing how, like, time and time again, one of the needs that team members have is cross-departmental collaboration opportunities and just getting those moments to interact with people across the organization. So just depending on your culture, consider, doubling up on one of these. Team dynamics are the most important part of culture, because it's like, these are the people you spend the most time with. So we always suggest, having a good doubling down of team events as well, making sure that core team is strong. Awesome. We're just about to wrap up here. We have a few more minutes, but I just want to reiterate by saying we're going to follow up with some of the resources that we've mentioned here today in an email. And we would also like to extend a coupon code for thank you 50 for $50 off your first booking with Confetti. So that's thank you 50 for any of those who are interested. We're going to also put that in the follow-up email as well. And then I want to share one more resource with you before y'all leave. But this is a wellness calendar that is good to kind of keep in mind. It has a lot of the different times throughout the year that are kind of just bring a little bit more of a theme to your wellness initiatives in the organization. So National Relaxation Day is coming up. Like, if you want to show that your team, that you care about their wellness, sometimes taking these days and say, hey, we want to celebrate National Relaxation Day, and do something that shows that you guys care about their well-being. And as for Q&A time, we've got 5 minutes left, but for any of you who want to connect with me, I am an open book. Here's my email, reach out to me. I'll probably reach out to you after this webinar, and you can always send any questions you'd like there. But I have a few more minutes to be able to open up the Q&A for anyone who's interested. And I have one person here who said, I have a friend whose workload is 10+ hours a day, 5 days a week, 40 hours salary, and PTO is never fully off. If my friend were to do the strategies you mentioned, they would be fired. Oh no. Well, first of all, they have to decide whether that's, the right company for them to be in. And it must be really, really tough to be able to pad that. But I think sometimes having like an actual chat with your bosses and managers and say, like, hey, I love this place, I really enjoy working here. I just find that with the PTO time that I take off, I still always need to be fully on. And I think it would benefit both us and the company, like me and the company, if I was to find some time to fully detach and then understand from, direct managers, is there a way we can either minimize or mitigate how much pinging I get during my time off? And I would also have them take like a close look at themselves, because if the bosses say, hey, you can take your time off, and then they're like, yeah, but you keep on pinging me, then there needs to be some kind of like conversation to be had, is like, okay, so do you just feel the pressure and the need to respond, or is that expected of you? And maybe work with your bosses to figure out, like, okay, is it okay if I, make myself available for the first 30 minutes of every day during my vacation, but not all the time? Like, try to figure out that middle ground together with that boss. It's a good question. It's tough. So I wish them good luck And if there's anything else that I can help with, if you want to dive in deeper, you can shoot me an email, or yeah, submit another Q&A. I have another question here, which is, how can I identify my stress triggers at work? This one's a good one and an interesting one. I sometimes like to consider keeping a stress diary for at least like a week or two. This might sound a little bit like childish or trivial, but just noting down the times when you felt stressed and kind of what triggered it, and then look to see if there were any patterns related to like specific tasks or interactions or times of the day. I mentioned that I'm pregnant. So like for me, I know that like I lose a lot of energy after lunch. I don't know what it is, but with my body, like I'm eating, and then as soon as I eat, I'm like, I need a minute to catch my breath and not jump to my next meeting. So trying to, reorient my schedule to allow for something like that, or looking at those patterns and say, hey, this made up Bob that I keep on bringing up, Bob is kind of the source of some of my anxieties, and then working through that nonviolent communication forms to try to be able to maybe have that chat with Bob on a call and see if that, can be helpful. Awesome. So that is it for today. If any of y'all have any additional questions about Confetti, you are more than welcome to contact us. Also, if any of y'all are curious about what we do here at Confetti, you can check us out at withconfetti.com, or we have these really fun hello and demos if you want to be able to network. And I realized I stopped sharing my screen too quickly. But booking at withconfetti.com if you're interested in any type of experiences. And thank you, 50 again, for $50 off your first event with Confetti. But you have my email. I'm here for you for any additional questions, and excited for your wellness journey ahead. Thank you all for being here. Bye for now.